Yeah!
This is home.
What I'm interested in is I'm from Tennessee. I've lived in Tennessee off and on my entire life. My family's been here since before Tennessee was a state.
Yeah.
We have all these new people coming here, and I'm always interested in their stories. Like,
Gotcha.
we're standing at the crossroads on 76.
Yeah.
Where are you from?
I was born in Keflavik, Iceland. My dad was in the Navy, and then he was raised in Massachusetts, so I lived in probably about 80 miles outside of Boston, headed westbound until the end of high school, and then I hit the road.
But you're in White House.
Yeah.
It's like there's a lot of distance between Iceland and White House. And of all the places in the whole wide world that you could have landed,
Yeah.
where's home?
I've spent more time in White House years-wise as a resident than any. I've been here more than half of my life. I've been here since 2002, and I was in Nashville before that since like 93 or 94. So I moved to Nashville when I was like 23, 24 years old. This is home. This is home, yeah.
And what do you do here?
I restore old barns, old tobacco barns, livestock barns, restoration, custom builds, and repair work. And in the part-time, I play with all this junk that I find in all these old places.
So you're a collector of all things authentic?
I would say
real.
so.
It's like I don't even like that word authentic. Real.
Yeah, you know, I would say so. I don't like, it's not that I don't like repop stuff, and it's not like that I don't like restored stuff, but I have a reputation here of having things that are authentic, either local history or original condition. Like if you're going to get an old gas station sign or something here, it's going to be authentic. It's not going to be a reproduction that you can go find in any
This ain't Cracker
place.
Barrel.
It isn't. It's not.
Yeah.
I mean, Cracker Barrel's got some cool stuff, but it's definitely have a reputation for having things that are authentic. Yeah.
And tell me about tobacco barns. We're in Robertson County.
Yep.
Supposedly the world's finest dark fired tobacco.
Correct.
So when people come here, you ride around, you see all these barns. They're very different than barns you see in other places.
That's right. Yeah.
So they're being repurposed. They're not tobacco barns so much anymore. They're barns for stuff. I don't know. What are people doing?
Yeah, to a certain extent. You know, I mean, the thing that's happening right now as far as barns go is we're at the point in time, most of the ones that you see standing around here were probably built in around the 40s. And we're at that point in time now where they're falling apart. So you either need to restore it or it needs to come down. And the number one reasons why people would hire me is, you know, it started a lot as people wanting them removed. And you know, like somebody like, oh, my wife thinks it's ugly or whatever. But now what's happening with the development in the area is the insurance companies and homeowners insurance companies are jacking the insurance through the roof because they see them as a liability. And even if it's falling over and almost hitting the ground, it's still considered a standing structure. So you're paying taxes on a standing structure. So people are either saying get rid of it or restore it. And up until really probably in the past 3 years or so, all of a sudden everybody's wanting to restore them. And that's where I come in. And I'm glad to see that because, you know, we lost a lot of good barns and a lot of good wood while people were demoing them to build these subdivisions. The other thing is that, so, you know, insurance companies are jacking prices through the roof because kids play in them, things like that. But the other thing is that these barns are in places that you wouldn't normally be able to build. If you tore it down, they'll never let you build there again. So if you have a barn that's up near the road and your house is back here, you can't build a structure in front of the dwelling closer to your road frontage. So most people are restoring them because they know if they tear it down, they'll never be able to build in that spot again. And I've done jobs where labor and materials come to $10,000, $12,000 and it turns what people think is a pile of wood into, you know, they appraise out at $50,000, $60,000 by the time we're done.
But it's important, like historical markers.
It
It's
is,
like when
yeah.
you go to other places, they have
That's right.
the whiskey barn, you know, the distillery barns, and
Yeah.
and here it's like we don't have any vineyards.
That's right.
We do have whiskey, and there's a few like on Distillery Road.
Yep.
But if you think about what made this area economically important, it's
Yeah.
tobacco.
You're right. Yep.
So it's part of the economic and the agricultural history
That's
to
right.
see these tobacco barns. Never mind the parts about families.
That's right.
It's like they come in and they tear all the farms out,
Yeah.
and then they call it Joe's subdivision,
You're right.
and they name the streets after Joe's kids.
Well, or one thing I think is funny is they name the subdivision after everything they had to kill to build it. Like Deer Run, ain't no deer here anymore. You know what I mean? Ain't no deer running there.
Yeah, and I like this new like farmhouse style, and it's all white. I'm like, have you ever actually been in a farmhouse?
Right,
This is
yeah.
more like the dentist office. This is
Yeah.
not the farmhouse.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like there's too much dirt in here for this to be.
Yeah. You know, one of the things that I've found very interesting is, you know, even though we are getting an influx of people and the area is growing, is that a lot of the thing that makes what I'm doing here at my shop work is that most of the people do want something authentic. Like they may have just bought this house in this subdivision and come from California, and these are super nice people, but they're stopping in here because like they want an authentic tobacco basket to put on the porch, or they want a real crock to sit by the rocking chair. And I appreciate that because these people coming in really seem to have a deep appreciation for the area and its heritage and its history, and at least the ones who come here do.
Well, I think it's maybe not everybody, but the overwhelming majority. I was given tours before, and it's like, why do people care? And I'm like,
Yeah.
all of these things that I grew up taking for granted
correct.
because you just knew are the reasons that they're coming here. They want to
the
know their
reason,
they
yeah.
want to know their neighbors. They want to stop and speak to somebody on the corner store. It's like they're coming from larger metropolitan areas and bigger developments where they didn't have any connection to anything.
Yeah.
And to come here,
Yep.
what we consider a subdivision to them is a farm.
Yeah,
You're like, here's
exactly.
5
That's
acres.
true.
Here's 5 acres. You can plant some tomatoes and have a little
Yeah.
row of corn.
That's true.
And
Yeah.
it's such like a liberating kinds of things.
really
You have
is.
fresh air. And I think, you know, like Jamie and I grew up knowing each other, and we like knew everybody.
Yeah.
Like you literally knew everybody. It's good because you know everybody. It's bad because they know all your business. It's like
Right,
it's like
right.
it's like dating is out because
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
like you find out 7 years later. I'm like we're at the same family reunion. Like this is wrong some
Yeah.
kind of way. But people are coming here because that's what they're looking for is a connection to place.
Yeah,
and
I'd
like
say so.
and most of the time it's like we live in a consumer society. The connection of place starts with what we collect and our things.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's usually what's handed down even more so than the stories are the stories about the things. This
Yeah,
is this is
absolutely.
granddaddy's hat, this is grandmother's rolling pin, this is whatever, and it's almost like they're passing a spirit stick. You
Yeah,
know, like,
yeah, absolutely.
Like, and I think about you talking about the tobacco barns, like the tobacco sticks that are in the
Yeah.
tobacco barns that people make swings and whatever.
Yep, that's right.
You find the old split sticks that were hand hewn, and
Yeah.
they've been used by families for generations.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes, they're in the barn that they originated from
Yep.
for 100 years or more.
Yep.
So there's not too many other things that you can say literally pass from generation to generation, tradition to tradition,
That's right.
except those tobacco sticks.
That's right. Yeah.
And when that history is gone, it's gone. You know, like you can't learn how to fire tobacco from a textbook. It's like your granddaddy has to teach you how
That's
to fire
right.
tobacco.
That's right.
And when people are moving here, they're moving here because of that connection to place that we've been able to maintain that other places may or may not have just because people have been so spread out.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, like one of the reasons why people choose a place like White House is because it still has a small town feel, even though it's growing, especially to the people who are coming in, even though it's changing for a lot of us who've been here 20 plus years. And it's still a great place to raise your kids. You know, people aren't going to put up with a whole lot out here for the most part. And that's a wonderful thing because, you know, you just, you know, maybe it's coming, I don't know. But at this point, I still feel fine about, you know, letting my daughter, you know, who's just here, it's like, hey, I'm going to go hang out with some friends and drive off. I'm like, yeah, go have at it, you know. Where there's a lot of places that it's like, you know, I know where I grew up, it was an industrial small town, and it was, you know, off the river and out in the middle of absolutely nowhere. And it's like, there was nothing better to do than to get in trouble.
I just had lunch with a friend. I just had lunch with a friend, and we were talking. Another friend had been in, and I said, when I was 10, we used to walk the river.
Yeah.
And she was like, what do you mean you walk the river? I said, well, I would get in on East Robertson Road. I said, and then by the end of the day, somebody would come pick me up, and I might be in Orland. And she's like, you were 10, and you just went 5 miles down the river. And I was like, I knew every single person on the river.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, and if I was to get into trouble, or I was to do something I wasn't supposed to, then I would get in trouble when I get home. I was like, like every grandmother, every farmer, every whatever, nobody fussed at us for being in a creek. We were just kids with our fishing poles walking up the creek.
Yep.
And now, I mean, we go kayaking sometimes in the Red River, and it's like, I know, you know every farmer, you know where all the gates are, and if the cows are out, you put them up.
Exactly, yeah, no doubt. Yep.
It's a way of belonging that you have to have known those people for generations.
Yeah. Well, and it's like something you said earlier, you know, like you don't appreciate that until you go away and start to miss it. And it's like, you know, I'll go to a different, you know, I've been traveling for so long and go to different parts of the country, and it's like I miss the, you know, the lobster in Maine. I miss the lakes in Minnesota. I miss the, you know, I miss the clams and the oysters in Washington State. I miss the brisket in Texas. You know, and it's like, you get separated from the things that you grew up with long enough, and all of a sudden you realize that those are the things that are special about where you were at, you know, and all of a sudden you get a new vision for it, and you're like, people are like, what'd you come back here for? And you're like, you won't get it till you leave.